Presidency Jackson Mthembu on that cabinet Lekgotla that we were talking to our colleague Sanele Masetlo about. Let's go there live.
Equally important area is deepening economic growth and attracting investment. If we are to deal with the many crises we have in our country, it will be very important that we identify the sectors that will be able to create the necessary growth that we need so that we again build the jobs and create the jobs that our young people need. In the main, this area of deepening economic growth, attracting investment will take us basically the 2 days. Today and tomorrow we will be focused on what do we need to do, what more do we have to do, which sectors should we focus on, but what must we do with our SOEs. You know the difficulties as ESCOM, you know the difficulties in many of our SOEs including SAA. What do we do with all of them to repurpose them to be able to fulfill the mandate that they were created for? Because again, the SOEs are an important engine in ensuring that all of us grow the economy. So we must therefore do a lot of work in resuscitating and repurposing our SOEs so that they are able to do the work that they were mandated to do. So that's what we'll be speaking to in the 2 days. Of course, being given that as we start now, you know that the president has already given us umhlahlandlela. If you don't know what umhlahlandlela is, ask your neighbor. The president has already spoken to us on what are these issues that we need to focus on. But again, he emphasized deepening economic growth and attracting investment. And he emphasized that we must all say what are these sectors that will be able to give us benefits in our endeavors to grow the economy. We must identify those sectors in this Lekgotla. So that speaks to the second priority, as we all know. But of course, the Lekgotla will also be looking at the implementation this year of our medium-term strategic framework. That medium-term strategic framework says what it is that we need to do to deal with crime as well, to deal with corruption. What is it that we need to do to enhance implementation of the social wage to our South African populace? So we will then be putting in place in this Lekgotla an implementation plan for the medium-term strategic framework that is also embedded in the 7 priorities that we have spoken to you about. So broadly, this is what this Lekgotla is about. It's a programmatic Lekgotla. It's a Lekgotla that will say in these 12 months this year, informed by the 7 priorities, what action plans are we going to take as government, particularly to grow the economy, attract investment, capacitate the state. Thank you very much. Of course, but maybe before questions, you will also know that on the 13th, the president will also be taking the nation into his confidence on what it is as government we are going to do this year. What action plans are we going to put in place? So this Lekgotla is therefore very important in making the preparations for the articulation of the State of the Nation address by our president.
Hajra Marjorie from Power 987. Thank you, Pumla. Is there a sense of urgency given the economy is in a very bad state?
True. No question about it. That's why we're saying In fact, for the 2 days, we will be dealing with the state of the economy. The Minister of Finance, I think he has already started now, giving Cabinet a fiscal outlook. What is the state of the economy in the international arena, in the continent, but more importantly, in our country? And what is the fiscal and economic outlook? So yes, informed by what is happening internationally and in the continent and in the country, we will then get into a discussion, again a presentation by the Minister of Economic Development, Minister Patel, on what are we supposed to do to grow the economy, informed by what the Minister, the Treasury would have said to us, setting the scene. What then are these growth areas that we need to focus on as a country? That, of course, that will also has many themes. The economic discussion has many themes. One of the themes, as you will know, are our SOEs. We'll have a presentation on our SOEs. How do we turn them around? How do we ensure, as we turn our SOEs around, that there is energy security and certainty? You can't grow the economy unless you tackle the energy crisis. So that will also be a major discussion point here at the Lekgotla. Of course, the other issues are the normal issues of us as the DPME, Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, saying to the Cabinet, what is the MTSF that we approved last year? You know that Cabinet approved the medium-term strategic framework last year, but what are the implementation plans that are coming from all the clusters of Cabinet for this year in the implementation of the MTSF? Of course, the district development model will also come for discussion in the Lekgotla.
Just one more question from me. Is this an opportunity for the President to assess the performance of his ministers?
Maybe let's make this point. This is an opportunity for government to say, where are we going? That is another point altogether. But let's respond to it. After this Lekgotla, and as you know, we also had the governing party Lekgotla last week. The President will then enter into a formal performance agreement with all of us as ministers he has appointed, but also all of us as deputy ministers he has appointed, of course, the directors general, the premiers as well. Now, the assessment of our performance will come at a later stage. We will come before the President on a 6-monthly basis to say, what have we done and to what extent, assisted of course by the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, assisting the President, will then say, have we been alive to what we were mandated to do? So those assessments will come on a 6-monthly basis, twice a year for all ministers, but also for all departments by the President, assessing whether departments, as departments now of the state, have done what was expected of them in terms of the medium-term strategic framework.
Is there anyone last?
Thank you very much. Minister, a lot of what you said now was the same discussion at the last time we were here, at the last Lekgotla last year. Also the monitoring of performance agreements with ministers, etc. On the issue of the economy and state-owned enterprises, there is this continual diagnosis of the problem without solutions. Are we going to see what people are called radical restructuring? Are we going to actually see a game plan when it comes to SOEs and the economy after this meeting?
Well, let's first start with what you said we said last year. Last year we said we are going to enter into performance agreements with the president after the conclusion, because you can't enter into performance agreements when you have not concluded the medium-term strategic framework of government. Now, we have concluded that medium-term strategic framework of government, which we started last year after the elections. So there was no way that the president could have entered into performance agreements with ministers when there was no clarity on what government was going to do for the 5 years. Now there is that clarity. All government departments have said this is what we are going to do, informed by the broad strategic thrust of government called the MTSF. Based on that MTSF, the president has not, after this Lekgotla, because this Lekgotla must also be at one on what we are going to do, all of us, coming immediately after the governing party Lekgotla. After this Lekgotla, we can assure you, before the president gets on the podium on the 13th of February, he would have signed performance agreements with all ministers, with all deputy ministers, and all others, premiers, director generals. That's what will happen. But it could not have happened when all the other processes had not been embarked upon. On the SOEs, again, they are for discussion here. Now, I said when we started, don't ask my opinion. Let's allow the Lekgotla to conclude its business. All I can say is that yes, the performance of SOEs, their architecture, their mandates, and some who are in crisis mode is under discussion.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Lengos. So I have not tagged any question. And that's comes as this.
Are we expecting to be reshuffled?
All right, we're coming out of that address by the Minister and the Presidency Jackson Mthembu outlining the agenda of that Cabinet Lekgotla that is going to start today.